again. I am getting a late start today because I had to get some grocery shopping done, and we're doing Asian meatballs for dinner, so I had to get those ready. But a late start is better than no start. I think that today I am going to take care of the iris for sure, and then maybe the daisies that I dug up out of the garden yesterday. So I have 2 buckets of iris, and then that bag over there is some more iris that my mom gave me. I don't know if they're the same iris or different, so I'm gonna just kind of mix them all up and throw them in the ground. And then the daisies I'm gonna put somewhere also. Normally I have lining the fence back here at the end of the driveway these little pots that I moved to clean the leaves yesterday, and I planted them with morning glories for the past 2 years, so kind of wind their way up that fence. But I need to put the remainder of these plants into something, so I pulled them all over here to try to get some of the leaves out from underneath them yesterday, and I guess for now I'll just put them back. They're really too small for any kind of good impact along this fence, but that's what I was able to do at the time. And then those bags are full of leaves that we think we're breaking down to use in the garden. They probably aren't breaking down though like we think they are. But anyway, we'll hold on to that and we will get started. So I'm up here in the front yard, and I am not the only one who's up here working. My neighbor over here looks like they're getting new sod put in, and they've had landscapers over there for a while. Kind of nosy. I want to know what they're doing, because maybe it's something that I could replicate, duplicate, whatever word. Anyway, so I'm out here with company today. I've got daffodils that are trying to start to pop up. I'm looking forward to seeing those. And then down here, the hyacinths that I planted with Finn are starting to show their little face. That's good. So I know that the iris needs to be in full sun, and I also know that because I dug them up in the middle of January or the beginning of February, that I'm not going to get any flowers this year, but that's okay. At least they're still alive, and maybe next year. So I want to put them up here to cover this. I think it's like a cable or a phone. I forget which one. Either way, it's this ugly green thing, and it doesn't sit completely vertical. It leans pretty bad, and then it makes my pot look cattywampus. And I always intended on putting iris up here to kind of have those tall leaves grow up around it. And I planted a whole bunch up here. Only one of the, I don't know, probably 6 that I planted actually came up out of the ground. The problem is I followed the directions and I put it, I think it said 2 to 4 inches below the soil. And on some of the videos I've been watching, it says to have the rhizomes out with sun exposure so that they grow and flower the right way, which I did not. So I'm gonna clear this bark out and start throwing some iris down. Hope that they work better than this guy did. So I can see that I am always going to be fighting with this junky grass that just sends out these shoots and just gets into everything. Ugh. Looks like I'm gonna have to dig all that up again to get it out of here. I'd rather poison it. But I don't want to kill everything else, so I guess I'm just gonna dig it up. Got a cable, orange cable here I need to be careful of too when I get all these iris going. So I know a lot of gardeners talk about what they know as far as plants and things, but I am an amateur and I know nothing. But I'm trying to make my videos at least a little bit interesting, so I think I'll just talk about my time in the Air Force. Somebody just walked by with their dog and I'm sitting here talking to a camera. I feel kind of stupid right now, honestly. Oh, there's grass. I think I'll start with when I went to the recruiting office. So I was 18 and I went with my mom. We went to go talk to the Air Force recruiter. When we got there, we didn't have an appointment or anything. He wasn't there, but the other 4 branches, or the other 3 branches, I should say, were there. I don't recall the Marines being outside, but I definitely recall the Navy coming outside asking if they could help my mom and I. And they asked if I had ever considered going in the Navy. My grandfather was in the Navy in World War II in the Pacific, and he was a camera movie guy. He took a lot of film on the aircraft carrier that he was on. I don't recall what one he was on. I'm sure my mom knows. Anyway, so while we were waiting for the Air Force recruiter, my main concern just past my 18th birthday was whether or not I had to cut my hair. At 18, I totally had my priorities really straight. My whole future determined on whether or not I had to cut my hair. That's pretty dumb, honestly. So they said yes, and I decided that the Navy was not for me. So the video I watched on the iris said I just had to break it off and discard the old part. Bye! And then to bury the roots. Oops, I have a little sneaky guy in here. Bury the roots and keep the rhizome up to the sun. So that is what I'm going to do. Where was I at? I was talking to the Navy. So I decided immediately that because I had to cut my hair, there was no way that I was ever going to go into the Navy. My hair was so important to me. When I was little, my mom always cut it. And my mom's brother, my uncle, used to call me Opie Taylor, which I actually didn't like. And he called me that because my mom had my hair so stinking short all the time. So, when I was old enough to decide how I wanted my hair, it was going to be long, and that was all there was to it. Alright, one planted. And I think I'm supposed to cut the leaves down, so I'll come back and do that. When the Air Force recruiter arrived, So I'll plant this little bitty guy. My mom brought with her a cassette recorder so that she could record all of what the recruiter had to say, because you know recruiters lie all the time, right? They don't. But that's the reputation of a recruiter. I know they don't, or at least I didn't, because I was a recruiter once too, but I'll save that for another story, another day. Anyway, she brought the cassette recorder in to ask questions so that we would have it, a record of it, based on what the answers were. And honestly, I think maybe twice he told us to turn the cassette tape off. Hopefully this is okay, just snapping these like this. It feels weird. Lots of traffic today. Anyway, I don't remember what we asked him or what he said. Oh, that looks like a grub. Yeah, you can go die in the street. I don't want you in my garden for sure. But the recruiter had a concern over me because when I went into his office, I had on a watch that I had got when I went to Russia or the Soviet Union. I think it was still the Soviet Union when I went. And my watch had a hammer and sickle. So his concern was whether I was a communist or not. I was not. I just thought that it was cool to have a watch that nobody else had and nobody else was going to have. So I decided that the Air Force was going to be the way that I was going to go. I did not want to go to college. I did not want to write reports any longer. I hated that in high school. I didn't want to solve equations anymore. I just wanted to be done with all that school mumbo jumbo. So off to the Air Force I went. And I think that will be it for my Air Force stories today. I still remember the recruiter's face. I remember his name. It was a pretty good experience, I'd say. And maybe another day I'll talk about my experience with MEPS because it was awful. Totally awful. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and finish planting up these iris. And I will be back in a minute. Maybe a little more than a minute, but I'll be back. Well, there you have it. I have roughly 22 iris that I've planted around this utility box. After all of that was planted, I still have a bucket full. That's not even all of it. And then on this side, I have a matching cherry, and it seems to be doing just fine. But for some balance, I threw, I don't know, 10-ish more iris up over here. I really don't want to cover what I've got planted, so I just put some down. Plus this gets really shady over here, and I know the iris will bloom in the spring. Not this spring, but still it's quite a bit of shade, and I don't know how well they're going to do over here. This is what I've got left over still from my first bucket, and then I've got some more still left over from what my mom gave me. So now I think I'll go plant some of the pots. I hear mourning doves. It is like 5:15 in the evening. I am finally done goofing around with the iris. I've got, there's the dove. I've got 6 in those 2 pots. I think I'm going to give them to the neighbor. And if they want more, they can have more because I've got a lot. I had to put a few back in the garden that I dug them up out of. but at least it's all cleaned out so I can move them more easily later on. And then I've got these 4 right over here ready to go. They'll probably just stay there until bigger things are done in the yard, but I think that's good for today. And I really do appreciate you watching my silly goofiness that I'm doing in my yard. And I hope everybody is having a good day, and I will see you later. Bye!